Again, from Christian Theology and Apologetics, for 4.99. Thank you very much for the super chat. How would you evangelize to a very educated Orthodox Jew? For example, Joshua Berman. Ooh, that's a good question. When I have talked about um, the gospel to educated Orthodox Jews, and I have done this on occasion, I don't go out of my way to evangelize to them. Okay, first of all, um, it's not that I think they're saved, because I don't think they're saved, but
The casual way in which some Christians say they don't think someone is saved is truly shocking. Do they fully grasp what that actually means? When a Christian claims someone is not saved, they are almost always saying one of two things. Either that person will suffer eternal conscious torment, or that they will go to hell and eventually be annihilated. These are the dominant Christian views on salvation. So when someone flippantly says they don't think Jews are saved, what they're really saying is that Jews are going to hell simply for not being Christians. That's the unavoidable implication of their belief. And this frankly disturbing idea, that even good moral and decent people, whether Jewish or not, cannot be saved, is not just a fringe belief. It is explicitly stated in the New Testament. Jesus is quoted as saying, "I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me," John 14:6. This is reinforced by Mark 16:16, which, despite not being in the earliest manuscripts, still reflects what Christians believe. Whoever believes and is baptized will be saved, but whoever does not believe will be condemned. Furthermore, there is no biblical evidence that people can choose to believe after death. The New Testament makes it clear, just as man is appointed to die once, and after that to face judgment, Hebrews 9:27. The idea that one can accept Jesus after death is just wishful thinking by some Christians trying to soften the deeply immoral implications of their theology. This core New Testament teaching directly contradicts basic morality. The notion that God would reject good, righteous people simply because they had the wrong theology is appalling. And when this belief is applied to Jews, especially those who worship the Father and follow the religion he himself revealed, it becomes even more offensive. Christians are entitled to their beliefs, but when they make these kinds of statements, they shouldn't expect much respect. It's offensive, unjust, and morally repugnant. To be clear, I have no desire to be an enemy of Christians or to insult or disrespect them. I recognize that many Christians are sincere, well-intentioned people, and I share common values with them on many important issues. However, Christianity is not and should not be exempt from criticism. Just as many Christians have openly critiqued elements of Rabbinic Judaism, as well as other religious traditions, it's only fair and intellectually honest to allow reciprocal critique. We do not have to respect every Christian belief. Criticism is not hatred. The goal of honest critique is not to incite hostility or division, but to seek clarity, challenge inconsistencies, and pursue truth. Respectful disagreement is not an attack, it's part of serious dialogue. And no worldview, including my own, should be above examination or critique, even harsh critique.
I think when you approach them, it has to be very relational. It has to be very relational. You can't just give a gospel message to them and think that's going to do anything. You got to form a friendship. You really got to form a friendship with them. And then what I would do is, and keep the friendship. Keep the friendship. You just be friends with them just to be friends. Yeah, don't be friends just to evangelize. That's disingenuous. Don't go there. But I would go to Isaiah 53. Because a lot of Orthodox Jews have been told, don't read Isaiah 53. Don't read the suffering servant passage.
A lot of Orthodox Jews have been told not to read Isaiah 53. Citation needed. Seriously, prove it. Show me data or documented examples that demonstrate this is a widespread practice within the Orthodox Jewish community. Because the only people I ever hear talking about the so-called forbidden chapter are Christians, usually in the context of evangelism. I have never, in all my years studying Jewish texts and listening to Jewish speakers, seen or heard any discouragement from reading Isaiah 53, not in books, not in lectures, not in synagogue classes, nothing. So at least in the English-speaking Orthodox world, I can confidently say this isn't happening. As for what's taught in certain schools in Israel, I can't confirm or deny. But even if there are isolated cases, That's a far cry from a general policy or communal norm. If Christians genuinely believe this is a widespread effort to suppress Isaiah 53, I invite them to back it up with concrete evidence, not anecdotes or recycled talking points. Assertions are easy. Demonstrable patterns backed by credible sources? That's what we need if we're going to have an honest conversation. Speaking of honest conversation, I appreciate that Dr. Faulk emphasized not being disingenuous in forming friendships just to evangelize. That's a meaningful point, especially considering that many people accuse Christians of befriending Jews or supporting Israel solely for the purpose of conversion, not out of genuine friendship or goodwill. In this case, we see an example that challenges that accusation, which is refreshing. On this topic, many people cite 1 Corinthians 9:20, where Paul says, "To the Jews I became like a Jew, to win the Jews. To those under the law I became like one under the law, though I myself am not under the law, so as to win those under the law." At first glance, this can sound manipulative or disingenuous, like adopting someone's culture just to win them over. But it doesn't necessarily have to be interpreted that way. Christian commentaries explain this as a strategy of cultural flexibility or strategy, not deception. Paul isn't promoting lying or acting falsely, though admittedly, some Christians have misused this verse to justify questionable tactics in evangelism. Also, this whole topic got me thinking. I've listened to a lot of Muslim preachers over the years, and I can't recall a single one saying Muslims should become friends with Jews. I'm not saying none have ever said it, but it's striking how different the tone is. Especially when you consider that the Quran in Surah 551 explicitly says, "O you who have believed, do not take the Jews and the Christians as allies. They are, in fact, allies of one another. And whoever is an ally to them among you, then indeed, he is one of them. Indeed, Allah guides not the wrongdoing people." And here, by the way, we see a clear historical mistake in the Quran. At the time this verse was revealed, Jews and Christians were not allies. In fact, they often had deep theological and political conflicts. I'll be exploring this further in an upcoming video exposing what I believe is a serious and obvious historical error in the Quran.
Because it could change your mind. They'll know this. A lot of them have been told in a synagogue, don't read Isaiah 53. If you read Isaiah 53, it could change your opinion about Judaism and Christianity. You instantly read it, but you're a rebel. We tell you to do something and you do the opposite. Just because it's fun. Be very curious as to what these are powerful. Yeah. Christian theology goes including rabbis? Oh yeah, including rabbis. Rabbis are told not to read this. It's a forbidden passage.
I have literally never heard this claim in any synagogue setting, and I don't know a single person who has. And that's after listening to thousands of Jewish lectures and reading countless books on Judaism. Not once have I heard any discouragement whatsoever about reading Isaiah 53 specifically. So when someone says rabbis are told not to read Isaiah 53 because it's a forbidden passage, my response is simple. Either show evidence or stop spreading misinformation. And let's be clear. The claim isn't that a fringe group of rabbis in some isolated community somewhere are avoiding Isaiah 53. No, the implication is much broader. This is said in the context of mainstream rabbinic teaching, even referencing someone like Joshua Berman, who teaches in English and is widely respected. So this accusation extends to the English-speaking Orthodox world, and yet I've seen zero evidence for it.
There are some passages in the Old Testament that are considered to be forbidden. And it's not that they're saying, "Oh, never read this." It's saying they tell their people that you can't understand it. You have to be of a certain spiritual level to understand this. Okay? So, yeah, the simple, the plain reading will give you Jesus Christ as Lord. Yeah, that's a problem for them. But they're a lot of them are told that you shouldn't read this without special study guidance. And when you hit 80, you're enough in tune with the traditions of Israel that you'll understand Isaiah 53.
Evidence. I want to see evidence for this. Evidence, or it didn't happen. This whole take feels thoroughly dishonest when taking into account all my studies and experience. No one is saying what Dr. Faulk is saying in mainstream Jewish teaching about Isaiah 53. Now, to be fair, there is a concept in Jewish mysticism, particularly in Kabbalistic tradition, that certain ideas shouldn't be studied before age 40. I've heard that many times, but I've never heard anything even remotely like that about Isaiah 53 exclusively. And as I said for Israel, I'm still not convinced this is happening on any large scale there either. And if someone can show clear proof that this is a widespread effort specifically to prohibit reading Isaiah 53, not other texts or general discouragements about solo Bible study, then I'll happily acknowledge that. But until then, it looks like someone is peddling a myth and offering no sources to back it up. Also, let's not pretend that the idea of needing guidance to study religious texts is unique to this one chapter. Judaism openly teaches that much of the Bible, Talmud, and Kabbalah should be learned under guidance, not because something is being hidden, but because of the depth, complexity, and the capacity to misunderstand the material. As Rabbi Moshe Meiselman wrote, superficial knowledge is dangerous in all areas, independently of whether the possessor of the knowledge is male or female, and it is especially dangerous in so crucial and complex an area as Torah. Thus the Talmud asks, "Who is an evil, sly man?" Ula answered, "It is one who studies the Bible and the Mishnah, but has not learned from the wise men." Rashi explains that he who has not learned sufficiently to acquire a deep and thorough understanding of his material and hence will not know how to apply his knowledge in practice. R. Elazar said that such a person is an Am Ha-Aretz. R. Aha Bar Yaakov said that he is a sorcerer, i.e., he practices sleight of hand. Rashi explains the latter by saying that a person with superficial knowledge will utilize his knowledge to deceive people. So yes, learning with guidance is encouraged across the board in Judaism. That's not covering up Isaiah 53 or any other chapter. That's just basic educational humility. If you're going to make claims about what rabbis supposedly prohibit, back them up with credible evidence, not second-hand missionary rhetoric. And here is a clip of an actual rabbi teaching this very idea.
But let's say somebody does have that feeling. They feel attached to Judaism. They feel something for them. Where can they learn about things in a way where they may not? Because, when you're learning new concepts and new ideas, like let's say you want to be a rocket scientist tomorrow, right? You're not going to start at a university level. So what would be a good way for those people to maybe learn a little bit more in like a more digestible manner? Is it, reading the Torah? Is it listening to shiurs? What's sort of the best way of them sort of starting that path?
So, first of all, they need to gain more knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Now, reading the Torah, of course, it's perfect, it's good. It's cleaning your soul. But reading the Torah just like that without interpreting it can be even dangerous.
Mm.
You can understand things not the correct way. So you have to read the Torah, but you have to also have the ability to ask someone when something appears in the Torah that doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's different, the Torah speaks, first of all, the Torah speaks in Hebrew. If you read the translation, it changes a lot. So many times in our shul, people that don't know how to read Hebrew, they come and tell me questions on the Torah. So how come it doesn't read it? He says, "Oh, it's in the translation." I said,
Yeah.
Translation. That's why. But it's not the real.
Well, because it's still an interpretation.
Right. You
not
never
literal.
can really explain it unless you hear it from someone that knows all the background. So reading the Torah, it's perfect. But I think the first thing that you should do, you're inspired by Judaism, you want to know more. First of all, learn. Today we have online. That's the best way to do it. Pick few rabbis that you see that they are good, serious, orthodox, that speaks about it. You can even go to our channel, right? And there's other very, very good orthodox rabbis that speaks about ideas of Judaism. Search things like purpose of life according to Judaism, proves that Judaism is the truth, stuff like that, to understand, first of all, that this is what Judaism says is serious. Then after you gather that information, you see you are very inspired, you see you really, really like it, and it talks to you, which be most cases, because Judaism has a law what to give. Then find a local rabbi that lives someone around you that is Orthodox, and tell him, listen, I'm very interested. I want to be a part of it, slowly. Sometimes you will see that the reaction of those rabbis will be a little bit pushing.
Yes.
And they do it by purpose. Why? Judaism, as I told you before, it's for serious people. If you don't really, really, really want it,
You shouldn't do it.
just continue your life. you
Yeah.
know?
So what did we just hear? A rabbi saying that reading the Torah without proper guidance is dangerous. Now imagine if he had said that about Isaiah 53 specifically. Christians would be clipping it everywhere, using it as proof that Jews are hiding the chapter. But that's a complete distortion. The truth is, the Bible is a complex text, and guidance is necessary to understand it properly, not just Isaiah 53, but all of Jewish scripture. What some Christians are doing is taking a general principle in Judaism, that deep texts require serious study and guidance, and falsely presenting it as if it's a targeted attempt to suppress Isaiah 53. But as I've shown, that's simply not true. Jews say you need guidance to study all of Tanakh, Talmud, Midrash, and Kabbalah, not just one chapter. And importantly, there's still no prohibition against reading Isaiah 53. Saying that it requires guidance is not a cover-up. It's the correct approach to any profound and layered religious text.
Yeah. Okay. So that's why I would basically, when talking to, say, an Orthodox Jew, say, okay, what do you think about Isaiah 53? And then make the discussion about that. And say, well, where does this lead? Okay? So, hey, Bonbon, how you doing? Long time no see. Okay, so with that said, that's how I would, discuss this with an Orthodox Jew. Again, I wouldn't do this just to evangelize. I would, because I don't believe in forced evangelism. Okay, I believe in being people's friends first. Because frankly, I want to be their friends. I think that's good to be their friends. Yeah. Jimmy the Juice says, I can answer that. Yeah, probably. Okay. Bonbon said, I became Christian as soon as I understood the Trinity rationally. That's another great discussion. Yeah. There's not one approach to do this. There's not one approach to do this. So it's many approaches you can take. But again, it's takes sensitivity and guiding by the Holy Spirit to do it effectively. So I hope that helps. Thank you very much for the super chat. Very much appreciated. Bomb Papa's Basement says, gotta work that hard soil before you can plant seeds. Oh yeah. And it might not be you. That's the other thing about it. Some people are called to work the hard soil. And that's all you get. That's your job in evangelism. In spreading the gospel is working the hard soil. That thankless task.
And then somebody 5 years later walks and says, oh, this is not to the Lord. It was the easiest thing.
Yeah, so yeah, it's some are called to plant, some are called to till the soil, some are called to reap. Okay, so I hope that helps. Thank you very much for the super chat. Very much appreciated.
Very interesting discussion. But for an educated Jew, Isaiah 53 alone won't get you very far. There are simply too many other issues with the New Testament's claims and its interpretation of prophecy. That said, I'll leave it here for now. In my next video, I'll be presenting even more evidence to show that Jews are not hiding or censoring Isaiah 53, despite what some keep claiming. So stay tuned, and if you found this helpful, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And consider becoming a channel member to support more content like this. Thank you.